Welcome back to the Tech Stack podcast, your flagship podcast of states banning AI data centers and everything else going on in tech worth talking about. I'm Theo and this is episode 2. Before we get into it, I have to shout out something real quick. Friend of the show Stephen Robles left a 5-star review on episode 1. If you don't know Stephen, he's been doing these tech podcasting things for years. Primary Technology, Top 5 Tech, Mac Power Users, The Whole Beer.fm, World, plus he runs his own tech YouTube channel too. So genuinely, for someone who does this for a living, to say that audio quality was top notch and that I brought good context into the news on episode 1, that means a lot. I'll link his shows and his YouTube channel below so you can go check him out. Thank you very much, Stephen. Okay, on to the show. 5 stories this week, and it's a mixed bag again. A state government straight up banning something tech companies want to build. IBM having maybe its worst day on Wall Street for a long time. Apple letting regular people test drive a completely rebuilt Siri. And the US and China still fighting over who gets the best chips. Plus, Samsung finally locking in their next big phone event. Let's get into it. Story 1. This is a big one because it's a first. New York just became the first US state to hit pause on new AI data centers. Governor Kathy Hochul signed an order putting a full 1-year pause on new hyperscale data center construction. There's been a massive proposed facilities in places like East Fishkill and Lansing on the Hudson Valley that have been in planning for years, supposed to be huge economic boosts, and that kind of project is basically frozen now under this order. Here's the actual mechanics of it. The order applies to any proposed facility that needs at least 50 megawatts of electricity. That's the threshold for what counts as hyperscale here, and it stops the state's Department of Environmental Conservation from issuing the directory permits these projects need while the pause is in place. And it's not just a pause for pause's sake. Hochul's administration is trying to repeal the sales tax exemptions that were previously handed out to big data center projects. So this isn't just a wait a year, it's also we might stop subsidizing you too. Why now? The reasoning being given is in electricity prices, water consumption, and the general strain these facilities put on local infrastructure. And if you've been anywhere near this topic, that tracks. Data centers, especially the ones built for AI, use an AI training, use an enormous amount of power and, depending on the cooling system, a genuinely staggering amount of water. When one of these gets built near a town, residents are often the ones who end up watching their electricity bill creep up because the local grid has now got to serve a facility running at industrial scale 24/7. My take on this, I think this is going to be the first domino, not a one-off. Every state that has hyperscale data centers being proposed right now is what New York just did. If a state can economically significant as New York is willing to say, actually, no, slow down, that gives a lot of political cover to the other state governments that have been quietly nervous but didn't want to be the first. To be fair, the other side of this, the tech industry's argument is these facilities create jobs. They're investing billions of dollars locally, and if one state blocks them, the data center just gets built in the next state over. So if you lose the investment without reducing the demand for AI infrastructure nationally, that's a real tension, and I don't want to think it's a simple New York is right story. It's genuinely a hard trade-off between local quality of life and what the state wants to sit in this industry. So keep an eye on this. I think we're going to spend a lot of this year watching state governments figure out where they stand on hosting the physical infrastructure that AI actually needs to run. From state governments pumping the brakes on AI to a company that's feeling the AI shift in the worst possible way on their earnings report. IBM had a rough week. They put out preliminary second quarter revenue guidance that came in below what Wall Street was expecting. and the stock reportedly had its worst trading day on record after that news came out. The reason given is pretty simple on the surface. Enterprise customers, meaning big companies, are redirecting their technology budgets towards AI projects instead of stuff IBM traditionally sells, like enterprise software and consulting services. But I think that there's a more interesting way to read this. It's not that companies stopped spending money on technology, it's that the category of spending shifted. Money that used to flow to IBM for infrastructure consulting, legacy enterprise software, some meaningful chunk of that is now getting redirected specifically towards AI initiatives, and IBM apparently isn't capturing enough of that redirected spending to make up the difference. Here's what I find genuinely interesting about this. IBM has been trying to position itself as an AI company too. They've got Watson. They've got enterprise AI consulting arms. This isn't just a company that ignored AI and got left behind in some obvious way. This is a company that's in the AI conversation and it's still getting squeezed, which tells me that AI spending shift is brutal enough that even being present in the space doesn't guarantee you capture the budget. You have to be the default choice for that redirecting spending, and right now IBM apparently isn't. Broader signal. I think this earnings report is going to get used as a data point in a bigger argument that's forming, whether we're actually in some kind of AI spending bubble where money is being pulled out of boring but stable tech spending and poured into AI bets that may or may not pay off as fast as expected. IBM stock reaction alone tells you investors are nervous about companies caught on the wrong side of that shift. Alright, from the money side of AI to something a lot more people are going to actually get their hands on this week. Apple just let regular people try the biggest Siri overhaul in years. Okay, this one's fun because you can actually go and download this today if you want. Apple released the first public beta of iOS 27 on the 13th of July, and the headline feature is completely rebuilt Siri. They're calling it Siri AI. Spoiler alert, I have it downloaded on all my devices. What makes this different from old Siri? It can hold an actual ongoing conversation instead of one-off commands. It can see what's currently on your screen, it can pull from your personal information, and it can take multi-step actions across different apps. Basically, and this is the comparison being made by the people covering it, it's a lot closer to how Claude or ChatGPT works than the Siri we've had for the last decade. On-screen awareness is the clever bit here. It means Siri can see what's actually on your screen and understand the context of what you're looking at, so it can do way more specific actions without you having to explain everything. There's also a dedicated Siri app now for back and forth conversations instead of just being a voice thing you summon and dismiss. Device requirements matter here. iOS 27 itself runs on iPhone 11 and newer, so most people are covered on the base update. But Siri AI specifically, along with the broader Apple Intelligence features, need a certain iPhone 15 Pro or newer, so there's a real split here. Everyone gets the performance improvements and general polish, but the headline AI features is locked to more recent hardware. On performance, separate from the AI stuff, Apple says apps are launching up to 30% faster and AirDrop transfers up to 80% faster on this beta, even on older supported iPhones. Earlier reactions I've seen have been really positive, with people calling it one of the most stable first betas they've tested in years. I'll link Stephen Robles' review in the description. Here's my honest take. This feels like Apple finally admitting the quiet part out loud that the original AI-powered Siri they promised a couple of years back didn't ship the way they wanted, and this is the actual real attempt at fixing that gap. The comparison to Claude and ChatGPT isn't accidental either. That's clearly the bar Apple is measuring against now, whether they like it or not. One thing to flag if you're thinking about installing this for yourself, it's a beta. Apple themselves recommend not putting it on your main phone. Back up first and expect some bugs and battery drain. iOS 27 fully ships this autumn alongside the iPhone 18 lineup, so if you'd rather wait for the polished version, that's coming in a couple of months anyway. From software that's trying to get smarter to the actual physical chips that make all of the AI stuff possible, and the ongoing fight over who gets access to them. This story is a continuation of something we've been tracking for a while now. The fight over which AI chips are allowed to go to China, and we've got two new developments this week. First, a Commerce Department official confirmed that only a few Nvidia H.0200 chips have actually shipped to China, even though there's technically export approval in place for them. So even when the paperwork says this is allowed, the actual physical flow of chips is being kept extremely limited in practice. Second, and maybe even more significant, Nvidia itself slashed its list of improved buyers in Asia, effectively choking off advanced chip flows on their own end, on top of whatever the government restrictions already require. A quick reminder on why this whole fight exists. The chips Nvidia make are the backbone of training and running advanced AI models. The US government doesn't want China's AI industry, including its military applications, getting unrestricted access to the most powerful versions of this hardware. So there's been an ongoing, evolving set of export controls trying to draw a line between chips China can have and chips China can't. What's interesting about Nvidia narrowing its own buyer list voluntarily is that it suggests the company is trying to get ahead of stricter enforcement rather than waiting to be forced into it. That's a pretty telling sign. When a company starts self-restricting beyond what's legally required, it usually means that they see tighter rules coming and would rather manage the transition on their own terms. This connects to something we talked about last episode too. Companies like DeepSeek building their own chip strategy and Anthropic exploring custom silicon with Samsung. All of this is really the same underlying story from different angles. Chips have become the actual choke point of the entire AI industry, and every major player, whether it's the government or a company, is maneuvering around that choke point right now. Alright, let's close things out with something a lot more straightforward. Samsung just locked in their next big phone event. Quick break. The Tech Stack podcast doesn't have a sponsor yet. Right now, this show is entirely out of pocket. Every bit of the recording gear, the hosting, the editing time, all of it is coming out of my own wallet, and I'm doing it purely because I love talking about this stuff, not because anyone's paying me to. That's genuinely fine for now, but if your company makes something tech listeners would actually care about, or if you know someone who does, reach out to the techstackpodcast@gmail.com. Let's talk about what a partnership could look like. Now back to the show. Last story, and this one's simple and exciting if you're into foldables. Samsung has officially confirmed its next Galaxy Unpacked event for the 22nd of July in London. They haven't spelled out exactly what's launching, but the teasing has been heavily pointed at foldables. And honestly, based on Samsung's usual pattern with Unpacked events, it would be more surprising if foldables weren't the centerpiece of this time around. We're almost certainly looking at new foldables. The rumor mill has been pretty consistent. Samsung's calling the current Fold the Fold 8 Ultra, which starts at around £1,899 for the base 256GB model. It's got an 8-inch inner display, 6.5-inch cover display, and the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor. Then there's the brand new Fold 8 Wide, the compact passport-sized one that's roughly the size of the rumoured iPhone Ultra. That one's actually cheaper, expected to come in around £1,699, with a smaller 7.6-inch inner display with a 4:3 aspect ratio, making it feel more like a portable tablet when you open it. They've been teasing it leaking details, the whole thing. And honestly, I wonder if this is going to be a wide trend in the market. Huawei's already doing compact foldables, Samsung's doing it now, and I reckon we're going to see Google and Apple follow this trend. And the fun parts, if you've been following the show, this lands just 3 weeks before Google's Pixel 11 event, which we already covered. That one's set for August 12th. We're looking at a genuinely stacked stretch of major phone launches this summer. Samsung on July 2nd, then Google on August 12th, and Apple's iPhone 18 event still expected in the autumn alongside iOS 27's full release. My honest read, Samsung front-loading their event ahead of both Google and Apple feels deliberate. Get the news cycle and the wow moment before everyone else shows up. Whether the actually shifts many purchase decisions is debatable, but it's a pure attention play. Going first in a 3-launch summer is a smart move. So mark the calendar, 22nd of July for Samsung, and we're obviously going to be covering whatever they actually announce on the next episode. That's the 5 for this week. Before I let you go, if you're enjoying the show, a 5-star review genuinely makes us the biggest difference for this podcast. This new. It helps other people actually find us. Takes about 10 seconds and means a lot. And hey, if a 5-star review from someone who's been podcasting for years, like Stephen Robles, is an indication you're in good company enjoying the show. Got a story you think I should cover or a question for the show? Email me anytime at thetechstackpodcast@gmail.com. I read everyone. I'm Theo. This has been the Tech Stack Podcast, and I'll see you next week. The Tech Stack Podcast is a Tech Stack production. This show is edited and hosted by Theo Galley-Tonks. This show is hosted on rss.com.